One weekend with 3 shows, with 3 instrument approaches and varying degrees of challenging IMC, topped off with a chance to fly the Tesla of airplanes. It's another episode of Life in the Fast Lane. I'm John Weisswasser, pilot and drummer for Eaglemania. Follow me as I explore the practical use of general aviation while I travel the country with the world's greatest tribute to the Eagles. This is Life in the Fast Lane. This trip brings Eaglemania back to one of our regular haunts, the Tally Ho Theater in Leesburg, Virginia, for a pair of shows. But while this episode will contain some Eaglemania content, the focus is really going to be on the flying, which was challenging and made particularly exciting by my good friend Adi Karasek, who arranged for a flight in the Vision Jet. So getting right into it, the weather that weekend was complicated. The prog charts had lots of colors and lines and fronts of all different types, so I knew it was going to be interesting. So, given that I had a 4 p.m. sound check that I had to be in position for, I had to plan out the contingencies. Driving would take about 4.5 hours, which meant that I had until about 10 or 11 in the morning to make a decision as to whether I would embark on the 1-hour flight. The Tally Ho is served by Leesburg Airport, a controlled field without a Delta or a Charlie airspace, which lies under the outskirts of the DC SFRA. It's surrounded by big airports and complicated airspace, and has a 5,000-foot north-south runway with good approaches to the south only. That fact, that the approaches only work in one direction, is important to keep in mind when planning an arrival there. The routing there from the New York area is straightforward and predictable, and basically involves vectors to join the Hyper 8 arrival at the Park intersection. Caldwell was basically VFR all morning. Leesburg, however, started the day low IFR, below the ceiling minimums for the approach of 250 feet. I watched this carefully as the morning transpired, and thankfully it went from 201.5 at 8 a.m. to 610 at 10 a.m., which was easily doable for me. Assuming a noon departure, the TAFs called for me departing into marginal conditions around Caldwell. Dulles was reporting IFR conditions, with 804 improving to 2,000 and greater than 6 starting around noon with VFR by 3 p.m. The icing forecast called for the possibility of some moderate icing in the middle altitudes, and there was no real turbulence forecast to speak of. Graphically, you could see how the low conditions were centered over Northern Virginia, basically my destination, with good bailout options to the east like Baltimore, which was forecasting 800 scattered and 2,000 overcast and 6 miles. I chose Baltimore as my alternate. There was some call for convective activity, but this was to stay mostly to the west. The next rad loop showed showery activity scattered along my route, and PIREPs basically confirmed what we already knew, that ceilings were low. So I filed for a noon departure, went to the airport, and checked the METARs at Leesburg just before firing up, which indicated that Leesburg was still at 610. Still a go for me. It bears mentioning that the winds were favoring runway 17 at Leesburg. If the winds were from the north, I would have had to land at Dulles as the weather was below circling minima.
Okay, 929 Delta Alpha is clear to Leesburg on departure left turn to heading of 180 radar vectors. Park has filed 2,200 at 10 minutes, 12855 3056, and I'll give you a call when I'm ready to taxi with the Carnatus 9 Delta Alpha.
Radio 9 Delta Alpha, readback is correct.
Clip and takeoff 22 9 Delta Alpha. That was quick. '85.
Radio 9 Delta Alpha, contact departure, have a safe flight.
Departure so long, 9 Delta Alpha. Yeah, departure, good afternoon, ready at 929 Delta Alpha is 1,000, climbing 2,000, turning left, heading 180.
929 Delta Alpha, ident, climb and maintain 5,000.
5,000, 9 Delta Alpha.
Number 9 Delta Alpha, verify you live in 2.5.
2.5, climbing 5,000, 9 Delta Alpha.
Thanks.
Your departure, good afternoon, ready at 929 Delta Alpha, 7,000, climbing 10,000, 270.
99 Delta Alpha, direct park, maintain 16,000.
Direct park up to 16,000, 9 Delta Alpha.
Take
So
care.
we're in the presence of visible moisture, stability less than a
9
mile.
Delta Alpha, center 134.6, maintain 16,000.
134.616,000. Thanks for your help, 9 Delta Alpha.
New York Center.
Oh, I've turned the prop heat and stall heat on. Or clear of it, so I can turn it off. New York Center, Meridian 929 Delta Alpha, 14,800, climbing 16,000, direct park.
929 Delta Alpha, New York Center, roger.
Well, we've been cleared up to our filed altitude of flight level 20, and he gave us a shortcut on the arrival, cut off a couple waypoints, so we're direct Lancaster. And currently the weather at Leesburg is 600 overcast, 10 miles visibility, winds 110 at 3. Now I'm going to ask for the RNAV to 17 as opposed to the ILS. Caracas, Danmo 2100, which is our final approach fix, and
vertical track,
633.
Vertical track.
Bottom is at 633. It's a climb to 1100, then a right turn to 4000, direct to Corny intersection.
621, go to New York now, 13432. Weather. 13432, Center East Coast Jet 25, 17,000. East Coast Jet 25, New York, bar maintain.
810. Atomic approach Meridian 929 Delta Alpha is 12,700, descending to cross lurch at 12,000.
929 Delta Alpha, Potomac approach, welcome to altimeter 3008. Let me know when you have the weather at Leesburg and your approach request.
Yeah, we have the weather at Leesburg, 3008 on the altimeter, requesting the RNAV to 179 Delta Alpha.
929 Delta Alpha, proceed direct to Caucus, descend and maintain 5,000.
Okay, direct Caucus down to 5,000, 9 Delta Alpha. Okay, going through our descent checklist, we have the ATIS. Our altimeters are both set, ice lights are off. Airport, we've gone through the approach and reviewed. Our pressurization's coming down nice. And we've reviewed the missed approach procedures, which are going to be climb to 1200, then a right turn at 4000 to direct Corny. We know Caucus is 12 miles from our missed approach point. So that means that the highest that we could intercept the glide path would be 3,600, actually adding the touchdown zone elevation. So we add 300 to 3,600 is 3,900. So the highest we could comfortably, we would expect to intercept the glide path at Caucus at around 3,900 to 4,000 feet. So if he gives us descent of, cross Caucus at or above 3,000 and say we're at 3,500, then I'm gonna stay at 3,500 because that will give me longer time on the glide path in order to establish a stabilized approach.
929 Delta Alpha, you're 8.5 miles from Caucus, cross Caucus at or above 3, clear for the RNAV GPS 17 Leesburg.
Okay, yes, at or above 3,000 and Caucus cleared for the approach, 9 Delta Alpha.
Renata Delta Alpha, aircraft has just touched down on the ILS approach, reported basis at 1,000 MSF.
Thank you very much, 9 Delta Alpha. We're now turning left, joining the final approach course. We are in approach mode and armed. Glide path is alive.
Renata Delta Alpha, contact Leesburg Tower 127.5.
Over to Tower, thank you for your help, 9 Delta Alpha. Leesburg Tower, good afternoon. Meridian 929 Delta Alpha is with you at Caucus.
Meridian 929 Delta Alpha, Leesburg Tower, good afternoon. Reports at Danmo, wind 120 at 5.
Okay, we'll give you Danmo, 9 Delta Alpha. The glide path is captured. Just coming down. 3 green, 10 of flaps. And let's bring our torque back. Next call is going to be at Danmo. We're below 135 knots. Let's go flaps 2. Alright, pre-chain landing checklist, manual. Landing light to go. We've got 20 degrees of flaps, 3 green, and our pressurization is almost 0. Keep an eye on that. Minimums are 633. And the initial climb will be 1,200 feet. And 9 Delta Alpha is coming up on Danmo.
Meridian 9 Delta Alpha, clear land runway 17, wind 1306.
Clear land 17, 9 Delta Alpha. Okay, last notch of flaps. Final check, all good. Full flaps, 3 green, and we have a differential pressure of 0. At the ground, looking for 630. Runway's in sight. And final check, 3 green. And I've disconnected the autopilot.
Minimums.
If you've watched this channel scrupulously, you know that the Tally-Ho is a regular stop for us, so I won't belabor the virtues of this wonderful little haunt nestled in the Virginia countryside in Leesburg. It's also a regular stop for many well-known national acts, which makes it fun to grace its stage knowing how much talent has preceded us there. Instead, I want to focus on 2 aspects of this 2-show weekend. Jake Gechter, who subs for Dennis, our regular bass player, and my experience flying the Vision Jet. Jake is John, our lead guitarist's son, and is truly one of a kind.
Yeah, I think it's just the sweetest thing ever. So what's it like? What's it like playing with your dad?
In front of people. It's definitely really cool. He's probably my biggest critic, so I mean, if I do,
carefully. Right.
But it is the coolest thing in the world to get to.
Right.
To look across
you
the
look
stage.
right.
So
when I make a mistake,
yeah.
If I'm looking at Jake, chances are I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes I had wished. I said, "Man, wouldn't it be cool if Jake and I could make a band together?"
Right.
Jake had it.
Right.
People are born with a certain, and I knew that Jake had it.
Right.
When he was 6, 7 years old, sitting at the piano.
You want to do the best to make yourself happy, more so than everyone else. Yeah, I'm the 1% of the 20-year-olds that enjoy 70s soft rock, I guess. I think I'm super fortunate. Some people would call it a drag to play with older guys, but no, I think it's great to play with you guys, and it's, everybody's really talented, and it's a great show, so I'm glad I can be a part of it.
Jake is a special musician, and it's an honor to play with him. For the highlight of the weekend, the opportunity to fly the Cirrus Vision Jet. I have to thank Adi Karisic, who I met through the Smokehouse Pilots group, for setting this opportunity up. He's become a great friend and a great friend to the band, and he's also a huge fan of Cirrus and in particular the Vision Jet, and he happens to also be a great magician. The G2 Vision Jet is Cirrus's top-of-the-line crown jewel. It's a composite 7-seat single-engine jet meant for the owner-operator that debuted in 2016. It cruises at 305 knots, is RVSM certified to a maximum of 31,000 feet, and has a maximum range of 1,200 nautical miles, although with 4 people aboard, that range is still an impressive 950 nautical miles. 2,000 pounds maximum onboard fuel feeds a single FADEC-controlled Williams FJ33 engine. It has the usual Cirrus signature CAPS parachute and now has the new Garmin Safe Return, which gets the plane stopped on the ground at an airport if the pilot becomes incapacitated. And when you consider all the little ergonomic and engineering touches that are worked into the design, it's hard not to think that the Vision Jet is truly the Tesla of airplanes. My guide was the very gracious and capable Boni Caldera. It's also worth mentioning that the weather that morning was a good IFR challenge as well. 200 and a mile, with a forecast to improve as the morning wore on, which was good because I needed to be in position by about 2 p.m. to sound check for our first show of that day. And with that, I made it to play both shows that day, still totally amped up from flying the Vision Jet. We ended up with the usual, very enthusiastic Leesburg crowd, albeit limited in size due to COVID restrictions. But the weekend was a complete success. Caldwell is served by 4 approaches. One RNAV with LPV minima of 287 feet AGL to runway 22, which is also served by a localizer-only approach. One RNAV to the northeast with LP minima of 448 feet AGL, and an RNAV to the east with LP minima of 428 feet AGL. The obvious, best option is the RNAV to 22 with its 290-foot LPV minima. In the opposite direction, there is only LP plus V with advisory vertical guidance and minima of 450 feet. The RNAV to runway 10 is almost never used, and in my decades of flying out of Caldwell, I've never flown it once. I had been following the weather closely that weekend, so it wasn't a huge surprise to wake up to weather at Caldwell of 200 overcast and 3/4 of a mile visibility. I didn't save the METAR for Leesburg for some reason, but it was marginal VFR at worst. The TAF for Leesburg was benign, and the forecast for Caldwell was to improve over the morning so that by 11 a.m. it would be 704, and it would stay that way all day. This was all due to the same low-pressure system which was centered over my route of flight. The forecast included the possibility of moderate icing in central and northern New Jersey in the middle altitudes that I was fairly confident that I wouldn't see because ATC would descend me early, and also some mild to moderate turbulence was forecasted along my route at those same altitudes. This was one of those situations where the GTAF really makes a big difference. I could see that the forecasted conditions improved as you moved west, so it made planning my alternatives a lot easier. The graphical convection forecast added another layer of complexity to the mix. The forecast called for the development of storms in the Maryland and DC area as the morning wore on. This meant that the longer I waited for the conditions to improve at Caldwell, the more likely I would encounter storms in the DC area. NEXRAD was already painting some moderate precipitation along my route, and although nothing was convective, it was easy to see how that could change over the course of the next 3 or 4 hours. So because Caldwell was forecasted to be less than 2003 within an hour on either side of my arrival time, I knew I needed a good alternate. And I knew that the weather improved as I traveled west, so nearby Allentown, Pennsylvania, with its long runways and good approaches, seemed like a good option. Northeasterly winds favored the ILS to runway 6, which had no alternative minima, and I could count on it if the forecast was for 602. The approach itself was good down to 200.5, and the forecast at Allentown for 1 p.m. was 804. Allentown would suffice as a good legal alternate. I did decide to wait until conditions lifted at Caldwell. This was taking longer than what was forecasted. On top of that, the winds were forecasted to favor the LP approach with a 450-foot minima and no vertical guidance. But at 6 knots, I knew that they could still use runway 22 with its LPV approach. A call to the Caldwell Tower helped in that regard, and that I knew that they weren't landing to the north where, at that moment, it was below the approach's minima.
Caldwell Tower?
Yeah, hi, how are you? This is John Weishauser with 929 Delta Alpha. Just have a quick question. I'm planning on launching out of Leesburg, Virginia, and I just was keeping an eye on the wonderful weather we're having in Caldwell. And
we are IFR.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Okay.
I just was wondering, are you landing on 4 right now, or are you using 2-2 given the winds?
We're on 2-2.
Oh, you are? Okay, great.
Yes.
And have you had any arrivals this morning, out of curiosity?
I'm sorry, say again?
Have you had any attempted arrivals already this morning?
No, we have not had anybody go out or in yet.
Okay.
Right now we're showing a visibility of 4 with light rain and mist and ceiling 400 overcast.
Okay.
But I don't see... No, nobody's coming in or out, but I don't see any issues.
Okay. I appreciate it. We'll see you in a bit.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, see you in a little bit.
Yep, bye-bye. So I went ahead and filed for an 11:20 departure and headed to the airport.
All right, airspeed's alive, 60 knots, 85.
Radio 9 Delta Alpha, Cessna to the northwest for the downwind, has you in sight. Contact Potomac departure.
Hey, departure, we have them in sight as well, 9 Delta Alpha. Potomac departure, good morning, Meridian 929 Delta Alpha is 1,300, climbing 3,000, turning left 300.
Meridian 929 Delta Alpha, Potomac ident, maintain 3,000.
3,000, 9 Delta Alpha.
9 Delta Alpha, your radar contact. 2 miles north of Leesburg Airport, Delta altimeter is 2952.
52, thank you, 9 Delta Alpha. So we're at 13,000 feet, and we've been vectored onto the Maisie arrival, the Maisie 3 arrival into Caldwell, which is what I expected. The weather there, as of a half hour ago, was 509.
Right heading.
Okay, so we're on the arrival now, and the weather there is
Delta 2065.
508.
Approach, good morning, American 1680.
With winds out of the east at 6, using runway 22, which is great. See, is a lot of people
341, approach 25-4.
Philly have diverted who are going to LaGuardia.
25-4.
Good day, Ricard 4959.
So, interesting. But I think we're going to be fine.
Then direct, Delta 2095.
There were some reports of some moderate turbulence, I think, just north of Philly.
Number 1, Mike Whiskey, climbing.
Making sure that there's nothing convective, any big cells. It's mostly just light to moderate precip between here and Caldwell.
Direct Brand, descend and maintain 8,000.
Direct Brand.
Obviously very helpful having NextRad.
Delta 2065, thank you again.
And New York Meridian 929 Delta Alpha 8,500, descending 7,000, uniform, request the RNF22.
929 Delta Alpha, New York to call altimeter 2960. Stand by, we're in the middle of a runway change. Start down to maintain 4,000.
Okay, 929 Delta Alpha down to 4,000.
At this point, they switched the runway on me, exactly what I was worried about happening for a couple of reasons. The first being that the minima are higher, and the second that my version of the G1000, for reasons having to do with the way the software is built, will not provide vertical guidance to the LP approach and to Caldwell's runway 4, as well as a few other dozen LP approaches around the country. What I've also come to realize is that when the major surrounding airports like Newark switch runways, so do the smaller ones, no matter what the winds are. And while it can be done, landing in the opposite direction is something the controllers are generally resistant to. The weather at the moment was above minimums for the approach to runway 4, and I knew that I had enough fuel to attempt the approach and then ask for the approach in the opposite direction with its significantly lower minima if my first attempt didn't work out. If my fuel status was different, my approach to this would have been similarly different.
Okay, so
for this approach going to work now.
feelings at 500 and the minimums are 448.
They showed 850 Papa Echo, they just showed
this is going to be close.
600.
Okay.
3000 Papa Echo.
So let's brief this.
12 Mike Oscar, direct to
To be 2,000 outside Zogud and 1140 at Weasel. And then the bottom is at 620. Importantly, the mist is a climb to 2,700 direct to Verbo. The current altimeter in there.
For KY 0 Papa Echo.
So Papa Echo, you fall from KY. KY to 2 clear to the RNF 5.
Wind 060. KY to 2 clear for the RNF 5 0 Papa Echo.
Feeling 500 overcast, temperature 1.
The minima for the approach gets you down to 448 feet AGL.
New York Meridian 929 Delta Alpha 3,400, descending 3,000, uniform, direct, Yovan.
November 929 Delta Alpha, New York approach. Caldwell altimeter is 2960.
609 Delta Alpha.
Yeah, cleared RNAV runway 4, approaching the Caldwell.
Okay, Yovan at 2,000, cleared for the approach, 9 Delta Alpha. So we're going to cross Zogud. Lower the gear, 10, 20 of flaps,
Because I didn't have any vertical guidance, I made a quick calculation based on my ground speed and the distance from the final approach fix to the missed approach point that I needed about 600 to 700 feet per minute in the descent. I'm not a big fan of the chop and drop technique in the Meridian.
Put it in vertical speed at about 600.
It's a 393 New York approach, Walrus down altimeter 2960.
Over 9 Delta Alpha, radar services terminated, contact Caldwell Tower 119.8.
Okay, over to Tower 9 Delta Alpha, so long. And Caldwell Tower, Meridian 929 Delta Alpha is with you outside, so good.
Meridian 929 Delta Alpha, Caldwell Tower, ground altimeter 2960, wind 0907, runway 4, clear to land.
Clear to land 4, 9 Delta Alpha. Okay, good. Gear coming down. Good, good, good. We're going down to 1200. We're 1.8 from Weasel. Down a little faster. Is at 620.
Oh, Tower, Sirius 511 Alpha Tango bound RNAV 4.
Sirius 511 Alpha Tango, Caldwell Tower, current altimeter 2960, wind variable at 6. Number 2 to the field, runway 4, clear to land.
4, clear to land, 2960, 1 Alpha Tango.
And 1 Alpha Tango, I do have a Meridian on about a 3.5 mile final. Once I get a base report from him, I'll let you know.
Thank you. 1 Alpha Tango.
Okay, we're at Weasel. This is the moment. Final check. Good, 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 good. And we're 0 on the pressurization. Starting to see the ground. We're at 880. Okay, and have the field. All right.
500.
Yeah, bases are about 100 above.
Minimums.
Alpha, Roger, appreciate it. Thank you. Still clear to land, wind down at 0607, runway 4.
Hey, clear to land 4, 9 Delta Alpha.
Sirius 1 Alpha Tango, do you copy that report?
Copy direct 1 Alpha Tango.
In and out of Roanoke, Virginia, for an outdoor show buried in the Appalachian Mountains. Next time on Fastlane.
And 9 Delta Alpha.